we still have to put it in budget. I don't know, that's a good question. Operations and material and plant, so that'd be probably what? That should be maintenance though, instead of transportation. Transportation would be, unless it's in a different budget.
All this is mine?
Schools, custodians, you would think.
You get both pages. No, just me.
Ashley's gonna be nice and give
Paper.
There's no James,
You
okay.
get the entire budget, which was true.
Stages of them. 16, that's only two.
All right, we'll go ahead and bring this work session to order. The first thing on the work session agenda is the director's contract. I have just now passed you down the updated contract. We changed it to the 2 years that we all talked about in there with updating the end date and the date on the date the meeting was held. Then everything else in here should be the same as the last contract that you got, except when we went to the Part D, Dr. Holman, I had talked with him, and at the advice of council, he wanted it to be worded the way it was in the contract that he had already signed. So that has been changed back to the probationary period shall be enacted by a vote of the school board. That was in the last, the contract that was signed the last time.
But didn't we vote at the last meeting for it to say what it said and the one you give us?
We talked about, what it should say on there, and then we've come to this meeting because we were discussing the contract in the work
We
session.
didn't vote on that, we
We
only
didn't vote
voted
on
on
anything.
You can't vote on it.
on the years, I think.
Okay, number 13 needs to be changed because it says the contract runs out 2029, so it needs to be changed to 27. And it says 29.
Right here,
It's on the
13,
middle of
number
the
13.
page,
the renewal of our contract,
right there.
27, I will get that right there changed on there. That was an oversight on my part on there. And I will give these back to you all at the next board meeting when we vote on that. It'll be sent out in the board packet. Every change that we've made today on this, it will be sent back out to you in the board packet before the board meeting. So I'll get that changed. And on item number 22 was the clause that Ben had talked to TSBA, and they recommended us adding to that. So that has been added as item number 22.
Has got anything in it about us doing the evaluations by supervisors in this new contract?
The evaluations by the supervisor will be the second thing that I handed out to you. And if the board's in agreement, these will all be sent out to all of the supervisors in December of next year, which I won't be chairman at that time, but they'll be sent out in December so that they can be back in time for the evaluation process. That will be in March, so that we'll have everything back in time for the review in April. So that will allow them to get the information. It'll be sent out in December. They'll be able to get the information by the February board meeting and have everything together so that they can get it to every board member, so that they'll be able to review how everybody's answered the questions by the March meeting when they do their evaluation of the director.
So will that be through like SurveyMonkey or something? Brian?
Yes, we'll
So
have
it'll
that
be anonymous?
We'll have that created so that it'll come back, and what the board will get is they will get, a percentage of who answered what on the 1 through 4 on there.
So, but that email you sent us says the contract needs to have it saying about the evaluation, so this contract don't really say that.
What they told me about the previous contract is that because the board evaluations had already been sent out, if we did this evaluation, it would become that we are adding another instrument evaluation to this year. So next year, if we send this out, this information can get presented to the board, and then you'll take that into consideration when you do your evaluation of the director, because there's a
Next year, too.
section in there, in that evaluation, that talks about staff relationships and all of that.
So this will be used to
This will
help
be
you
used
with
to
your
give your response
board
to the staff, relationships.
Did everybody turn their evaluation in this year?
Yes, everybody got the evaluation turned in. And, Crystal has got,
Crystal, what was the, she's got?
Give me 2 seconds and let me get to it.
Done, 2 seconds up.
My computer's real slow. The final score this year was 3.92 with all 10 turned in.
3.92 out of 5.
3.92.
It went up since the rest of them came in.
So as I was saying, this will be sent out in December, so that it will give everybody a month, all of the supervisors and the staff here in the central office, everything, will give them a month to submit their answers. And then that way we can have everything back, and the board, when they go in to do their evaluations in March, will have all of the answers back, hopefully, from everybody who wants to participate, will have their answers back, and then they'll be able to see and fill out their evaluation accordingly.
Do we get that in February and work on that evaluation and turn it in March?
It goes, this past time we gave it out for it to be turned in, it was turned in by the April meeting. So it says in the contract that we will, in the evaluation section, evaluations, annual, but no later than the first day of April. Those were handed out in the March meeting, so that we could have the tally and everything ready to go by the April meeting.
reflected in any budget? Do we have that in the budget?
Yes, I did put the 108 in just in case.
Number 6 on the first page there, talking about being professional liability.
Mhm.
If our director does have something ever brought against him, whoever the director is, who does our lawyer represent? Does he represent us, or does he represent him?
Represents us.
Us.
That's what I thought, but is that really clear?
Said we carry it.
Yep, defending director bears defense cost and.
This is professional liability insurance.
Yeah.
It's not, with a lawyer. The insurance will, pay to defend the director, bear the cost, and all that. That's what,
It's not with Chuck Cagle, but we bought that one.
Okay.
everybody had time to review the contract, and if everything's in vain, need more time? Does anyone see any other changes that need to be made at this meeting and the final copy will be sent out to be voted on at the next meeting? The change that I have is on number 13, unless the board acts before the first day of April 2027 or 3 months before the expiration date of the contract to extend the contract. Does anyone see any other thing that needs to be changed?
Under 15, you need to strike K, there's nothing under K.
Okay.
What James said.
Need to strike K, there's nothing under K
Yeah.
number 15.
Just cleaning it up.
Does anyone see anything else that needs to be changed? And with the survey to go out, does anybody see anything that needs to be changed on it? Did the questions reflect what the board was wanting to know? All right, with no other discussion, we will move on to the next item on the agenda, the budget. So I know everybody had got an email that gave some information out on there. Right now, we are looking at a
Yeah.
$1 million shortfall on the budget. Dr. Holman and Crystal have been working on this to try to narrow that gap as much as possible. One thing that has happened with this is now that all of the ESSER funding and the COVID money is gone, we've actually lost several students. We went from, I believe it was 3,000, what number is that, Crystal, 3,000? We lost about
40 from last year at this time to now.
40.
We lost 40 from last year to this time. Now, those 40 students, I know that they increased the amount that we received per student this year, but those 40 students cost us around $400,000. So with the decrease in students, and no more COVID money, everything with that has led to the shortfall. So that is what we're here to discuss today and talk about what we can do to close that gap.
Are we gonna have to fund the after-school loss also? Out of the budget?
We do with the, after school, you're looking at us spending about, what is it, Crystal?
230 to 250.
$230,000 to $250,000,
A year?
Next year.
for next year on there.
Where's that money coming from? Fund balance?
The money for funding that
Because we
is,
used to have the grant, now we don't, so
it is in the budget.
It's part of the $1 million
Part of the-
we're short. Without the COVID or the students.
Wasn't it about around 360 or something we lost, and where's that extra coming from?
We did lose more than the 250,
Yeah.
but we've we're still providing the same service, but we're doing it at a more efficiently.
One thing to keep in mind on that, even if we had got the after school grant and everything, we would still be looking at this shortfall.
But not as much.
No.
Right, it's still 250,000 we don't have.
When we have, special ed program, and special ed is funded through the federal government, do we pay any special ed out of our main budget that special ed doesn't pay? A lot?
So we have, federal sped funds, but all federal funds have to be to supplement only.
Oh, so
You
we're
can't-
paying
So
to
we have a
supplement.
lot of
We
state
have a
funded
maintenance of
sped
effort.
as well, yeah. We have to meet every year on the state side.
I know one time there were so many aides left that they didn't pick them all up, and we picked some up.
That was after more grant, like education jobs grant.
Yeah.
I forget, maybe it was ERA and the stimulus grants and stuff like that, you're right, Shirley.
Are all the aides supposed to make the same amount?
On the pay scales, except maybe,
Because I think
Did we
that's
do
one
anything?
thing, one thing.
I think CDC makes
I was
more,
gonna
right?
say, we talked about the CDC.
We
and I
raised
can't
the
remember.
CDC aid
Because we have to find somebody to take that
because
position.
nobody wanted it. I know that,
There is-
actually, was somebody else we raised that had to do with special ed? We did the CDC aid.
There is a little difference on the pay scale, I'm not exactly sure, let me pull up the pay scales and I can tell you which ones, what they're called. I think we did have CDC aids in there.
So what about the wheel tax, where's it at in the budget? Cause where it says it's at, it's got 0, so
So it goes into the,
debt service.
debt service, which is 156. I didn't bring it tonight, it's pretty cut and dry, all the wheel tax funding that we get goes into that. And then, what's left over of the loan to pay actually comes, we've been taking it out of fund balance the last few years and just offsetting that way. So it's usually like, I think we budget 601,000, from wheel tax from the county. And then the difference in that and what we owe on the loan for next year, we have been pulling out of fund balance to offset it.
So
We
is
don't-
their loan paid off this
Our-
year or next year?
Our other one just got paid off
So
this
we're
year.
done with this, so we
Yes,
should
so
save
we-
about 200,000.
Yeah, we had quite a bit, hefty chunk this year, cause we paid this year on both of them. But next year, this was the last year for the,
So we should be about
Well,
200,000.
2015, the county refinanced one of them and saved, on one of the bonds for the school,
Yeah.
and saved 30 or 40,000 a year for the 10 years.
Yeah, and all them were paid off now,
And that's
so
the
the
one that we
one for
just paid
next year
off.
will be the new one we're doing, for the building program. And from what we were paying to what we'll be paying next year is 200,000 better.
Less.
I mean, we're saving 200,000.
But if all that money is coming out of debt service, you couldn't use that to offset the budget anyway, right?
right.
So I mean, you can't use that money
No.
for
No.
this side.
Yeah, see, before we were paying
Yeah,
like 650 and the wheel tax was like 650, so now we'll be paying like 450
yeah.
and the wheel tax
So
will
it
be
just go in the debt
Yeah.
service fund balance. So what options are they to cut to save or to come up with this million?
So is this with the positions that you,
Yeah, those are
Talked about.
bonds.
We've worked hard to try to come up with as much personnel help we could do.
Can it be done through retirements and,
What we've put in so far,
Positions.
we're looking at it mainly through retirements and resignations, things along that, the majority of it.
So that will cover the million, or we're still a million?
We're still $1 million. Because it was 1.9, and with that, we've been able to save about $900,000.
But are we looking at the insurance or something?
Well, what we are looking at on there too is that if this year we give the support staff an increase of 50 cents, we will save us about, $132,000. And when we do the teachers increase, if we increase the baseline, the teachers that we have to, $2,500 to raise them up. And then if we go and raise, the other teachers up $1,000, so everybody would still get a raise, we're looking at about $396,000 worth of savings, so that would put us about another $500,000 worth of savings. Everyone would still get a raise, and
Are you
we
saying
would
every
still be-
teacher in the county, like not just the ones, the $2,500, every teacher,
Yeah.
whether you're speech, whether you're,
they will get a $1,000 raise on there, and that will actually, our pay scale will increase $1,000 on those line items, and then the ones that we have to increase 2,500 will increase those 2,500.
so
So-
everybody, even like coordinators,
Mhm.
principals,
So in reality-
supervisors.
Yes,
In reality, you don't have to go 25. I mean, state law says you gotta go to 47,
There
which
are
is 2.
there are certain levels in the pay scale that we have to raise.
I
to
understand
get
that. I mean, I'm not a fan of taking one group at this and the rest at a lower, because that's what got us in a situation years ago. And we had to sit down and redo it all, because it got to the point where your starting teacher and your 20-year teacher, there was a very little gap in between. And, you know, you work 20, 30 years and a new person's making almost this, I just don't like the aspect of
Yeah, and
giving one and something. I mean, if we're gonna do something, go across the board. I mean, if it saves money to go, you know, 2,000 this year versus 25, because our minimum's at 45 and we go to 47, I mean, that's $500 a teacher times, what, 250? So, I mean, what,
And then, like you said, if you got a teacher that's been there this 5 years, you got a new hire, it's gonna be up 47,000, ain't much difference.
I
or
mean,
7,
whatever,
8.
but I'm not a fan of that personally. so.
no, and I understand that too. And what has happened with this is that the level of teachers that we have has remained the same, even though over the past 5 years, our student population has decreased.
Are you, you're saying that we've got the same amount of teachers? I'd like to see those numbers.
People are
'cause
retiring
we've got
there.
so many teachers leaving and they're going to better paying places. I mean, it's understandable.
Is what were our numbers 5 years ago with our total teachers? It was 200.
Back in years past, let's see, prior to 2019, and then I think it was around 256 or 59, if I'm not mistaken.
259 teachers.
Yeah.
And then now we currently have.
Before this budget, current, we have, 261, I think, certified staff.
How many people?
261, I think.
Absorbing on that? Around 13.
Around 13.
what
So-
counts for that?
We have, Melissa, right now we have 261 teachers in this, it was in, prior to this budget,
Current,
Current.
right now.
current on there. With Dr. Holman, he's going to absorb 13 positions on there. And prior to 2019, we had
256 or 259.
256. And at that time, we had how many students roughly?
We had, back in 12, 13, maybe like 3,300 kids at that time.
Are some of those in that number added positions since then too, like created positions? Like maybe, like from ESSER and stuff?
Possibly, I know last year we added several from
Yeah, so really,
aided.
you know, that ESSER, that's kind of a factor in
Yes.
that too, William.
Yeah, that's the main factor on this, is that ESSER
That's
was
probably why
offset.
it looks like we have so many and not lost so many because of ESSER, so.
Because ESSER was offsetting so much in the budget that it made it look like we
Right.
had a lot of money.
So you pay
Because
a
it
lot
could
of
be,
people with that.
it could be spent on supplies, it could be spent on all of that, all kinds of different things. So it looked like we had a whole bunch of extra money in there. Now that that money's gone, we don't have that money to supplement what we have.
So that new TISA funding, it went up about, what, $250 a kid?
220.
It
220, we
it
got
went
that
up
in there?
Yes, it did increase on that. What happened is we lost 40 students, which cost us $400,000. We should have had about a $600,000 increase, and we only got about a $200,000 increase because of the 40 students we lost.
So we got 72.85, or 74.85 for this.
72.95.
72.95. So we're averaging, are we averaging $2,800 more dollars? I know with the sparse and all that
It
considered
was,
it.
if you count in the weights, it was just an average of around $10,000 a year.
And
So with the
how many
new-
students we got now, 27 what?
27, let me see, they just sent us a new thing today that I have. 2741, 2739, somewhere around there was the latest.
And it's, another thing to keep in mind also, we are not the only ones that are faced with this. We've got municipalities that had, COVID funding coming in, that no longer have that they're trying to get their budgets in balance and everything, and other school systems, it's the exact same way, is they're trying to do that. So that's the reason that we're having to have this conversation on this.
So where else we got to cut to make up the difference?
Chris, I got a couple of questions on couple of line items.
Okay.
Page 16.
Page 16, okay.
Yeah, there's two I'd like to kind of
Okay.
understand what about them. Communication, number down to 307, says communication, it says 55,000. What are we paying 55,000 for
So
communication?
that is actually all of the phones in the district. We have to provide phone services for every school and the central office, of course, for all of our buildings. That's phone service for every one of those,
Okay,
so.
and then lower there on 415, the electricity, 600,000.
Yes.
I know
yeah,
we tried to-
And that's every school
We
and
try to
here.
convert LED lighting. Are there any of the facilities that still yet to be converted? Is there any, it seems like a high number for electricity, 50,000 a month.
How did that compare before we went to Johnson Controls and done all that? How's our bills
Because
now?
we're supposed to got a yearly report from them,
And we ain't got it.
and we've got one, and I remember seeing, I know they've changed reps,
Representatives, yeah.
but we need a report on that too.
I'll work on that.
So I never hear nothing, so what other option about cutting? We gotta cut something still, right?
I sent one out there about the insurance, but I know we wanted to stay, several wanted to stay away from that.
I don't wanna cut our insurance one penny.
I'm one on record, no.
Some, we give somebody some, it's hard to take it away from them. That'd be like giving me 5 Oreo cookies and take 3 of them from me, I ain't gonna be happy, no.
I'm
Was
not
that
saying
not
I'm not saying I wanted to do
negotiated? Did we
that.
not negotiate that with, like,
I
wasn't
didn't
that a
think for
nego-
staff, did we?
I think we negotiated that with like OCEA and stuff at one time, did we not? With
I
the
think it,
insurance?
years ago they
Years
did.
ago?
And then,
Yeah, I think, I mean,
I don't know that it's in the most recent one, but I
that's
think
one
years
we've
ago
heard
they
for our
used to.
teachers, I'll go on
For
record. and say-
teachers.
For everybody.
Yes, it
Everybody.
is, especially, we've got staff that just work for insurance,
That's great.
and they need that.
No, and I agree on that right there and everything too. The reason that option came up, and it was just one of those, is because we're one of the only school districts in the Upper Cumberland that still pay 100%.
But some of them school
Oh, the
districts,
teacher.
Well, no, we pay 100%.
everybody, that works 8 hours or 6 hours.
Yeah, I
Well,
mean,
the
on
single
staff,
persons are
I
not
mean, a
family.
teacher's not a family
Yeah.
But some
plan. You pay 100% of a teacher.
Other counties pay more on their salaries too, I mean, I know some counties
Well,
that
no.
pays as much as 10,000 more dollars.
Well, I know, and, you know,
That's a lot different.
some people will do that right there, but if,
That's great, I agree with you.
and I agree with you on there right there too. But if you take, let's say 20% on that, which is still lower than what every other county's, covering, that will cover our complete deficit 100%. We don't have it anymore.
What about the fee?
If you charge 20% on the insurance, that would cover the deficit completely, 100%. I'm not saying that we should, I'm just saying that's what, and that's still lower than all the counties around us that their teachers pay.
It is, but those employees are gonna be taking home less money, and
No,
that,
I-
you know, they depend on that money.
I agree with you on that there, I'm just saying that was the reason that this option is presented to there, because that was the only option that you have, that one thing can do that, that's the reason it's presented to you. we're not for this, we don't want to do that right there. I mean, I'm not saying in the future it might not come to the point where we have to, but nobody wants to do that. But
I think the moment that happens, we're gonna lose a
Oh,
lot.
I
agree.
I agree with you 100% on that.
Now we're losing 2 school buses too this year.
Yes.
So that's why at the county, we started paying all of it too, because, you know, other counties, we offered insurance before the Affordable Care Act. Most counties didn't offer insurance. They paid more per hour than we did, but they didn't offer insurance, so we offered insurance and it's less, so everybody looked at the salaries around, so we paid all of the insurance for it. That helped keep employees. I think if we go away from that, it'd be.
And the insurance is not taxable.
No, and like I
No,
said,
it comes out before taxes.
I agree with you all on that and on there, but, you know, the board has to be presented with all options.
I know it's not a popular decision by some, but you offer the buyout again to try to absorb more positions.
We said we weren't gonna do it, but it's done 3 years now.
Yeah, we'd have to look at our policy, because we said we'd review it every 3 years or something.
It's been over 3
Yeah,
years.
It's been over 3 years.
I think it might have been every 5 years this last time.
Oh.
I think we might have said 5 years this last time.
I don't remember.
Because I remember we
It
were
might have
doing
been
it
way
like
back.
every 2 to 3 years in the past.
And it might not be a popular decision.
And the thing is that on this, some people may still retire. So we may still have other positions that we can absorb on this also. This is just,
The 13 that you know about, there may be more.
yes.
It's just my opinion, but we're looking at saving money, then we're looking at doing a 15% increase for the director in this new contract. I'm not saying, you know, worth that, and we maybe shouldn't pay that, but I have a hard time doing a contract with a big increase when we're looking at trying to cut insurance on employees that's barely making it now. I mean, that'd be my, I know it's $10,000 or $11,000, they don't solve $1 million, but that's, you know, you get 10,000 or 11,000 here and somewhere, it adds up. If you
No, I understand on there too and everything on there. The one thing to keep in mind on that also is that the director hadn't had a raise when we started raising everybody else up. When we changed all of the pay scales to make them equal, the director wasn't part of that because we had a signed contract with them. So they didn't get anything on that. And, you know, I'm gonna stress this right here again, is this is an option that is presented to the board. It's not something that we're wanting to do, and we're working hard to try to fund that, but
I'd like
So-
to still see us keep that dollar on our paraprofessionals too, if we can at all. I know we're trying to save money, but 50 cents ain't nothing anymore. We won't even buy ice cream or nothing. I think that should stay $1 if we can at all. I know we're trying to cut and save. The grow your own, how much is that costing us a year?
It's here.
Is it on
I
our?
think
There's a sheet, it's
220
itemized.
It's what?
220 to 225, I think. And of course, it'll be a little more, you know, whatever we do in an increase this year, so it would be a little more this year. But I think last year when we started it, it was around 220 or 225.
I believe we only have one more year of that.
This year and the next year.
Yes.
This coming year and the next, so 2 actually.
So what's their average,
that's where we're taking this.
what's the average salary, benefits, insurance, everything, dollar amount,
The teacher's raise.
teachers?
Sorry, what did you say?
What the average with, when you factor in salary, benefit, insurance, everything, what's the average dollar?
Per teacher,
Yeah,
we can get that for sure. Of course, you know,
I
you
mean,
have
is
to.
it roughly 80 probably, or?
Cause you, well. Let's see, we looked at
You're
some
looking at an
today.
$15,000 to $20,000 per, on top of what their salary says there.
So if it's roughly 80, and if we did the 2,000 across the board instead of the 2,500, that saves us 130, so now we're off, and we kept the dollar, so that's off 870. So now we're averaging like, I mean, it's about 10 more positions that it would need to make up for.
You lose 10 more.
Yeah, it's, I mean, it'd be great through natural, retirement, whatever.
Now, aid would be around 32, Mike, with insurance.
What'd you say, Chris?
Aid would be around 32.
An hour, 32 an hour?
No, 32,000.
32,000 a
Per,
year.
yeah, just an estimated cost per aid. That's where we started out, but always.
That's a pretty good salary for 10 months. Years of what they made up pretty good. What other programs do we have except grow your own?
So what about the grow on? I got sidetracked there.
We have one, next year, just one more year of that.
The one where it costs us two,
230.
I wrote that down somewhere.
It was, 220,000, approximately 220,000 this year, and then if we do an increase, it would be,
More than that.
yeah. So that is a, yeah, we had it for some aides, I think we had 5 before, but Esther paid for it, and then
Yes.
the.
And see, that's the
We
one
went ahead
thing
and
with
done
Grow
it
Your
as a
Own,
contract.
I know that we've got it on here and we're in the contract with that too. But the one good thing about Grow Your Own is that I know that we're talking cutting, but, it's gonna come a time where we're not gonna be able to get teachers, but with the Grow Your Own, it will allow us to, keep teachers and get more teachers.
What's the one that's under, it's on page 13, it's under board education. That number 340 says medical and dental services,
Give me one sec, what page, Ben?
13,
Yeah, here.
like 72, 310, 340.
72, 310, 340, so that is the, drug screening, whenever we have to have, bus drivers or new employees, drug screens. That's all drug screening, it's all paid out of that one code right there. I know, I always see that and think, we don't pay dental services, but it's the drug, it has to fall under that code. It's drug screenings for new
That's like,
employees.
okay, on page 9, down toward the bottom, 72, 210, 105, it says supervisor, director. How many people is that?
What page?
Page 9,
Hold on just one second, I'll tell you then. I've got a smaller that kinda has head counts on it, but it was so small when I printed it out. Let me give it to y'all, but y'all's eyes would probably be like mine, and I was like, oh my gosh. I
because
mean,
sometimes there's more than one person under.
yes, and in the 72, 210, 105, there is, let me see, I think 2, but hold on one second. 1.8, so.
So that's the
right at
benefits and
2.
everything, because it's not listed anywhere else, so.
The 159, so just in the 105 is their salary only. Let me tell you kinda how to read that. So the 100 object codes, anything 1 to 199 is all gonna be salary only. And then any 200 to 299 is all gonna be benefit codes. So that's gonna be your social security, Medicare, retirement. So all the 100 codes are salary only, and then the 200s are benefits. That's kind of a helpful way to look at it.
All right, yeah. Okay.
And let me give y'all one of these, cause it kind of has head counts. Pass them down. Just be careful with your eyes. I've got to need bigger glasses to see these, and they are small.
Well, you base it on teacher salary, and give them 12 months. You know what I'm saying?
I can't even see this.
Well, yeah, and, shows you everything.
Do you have magnifying glasses too?
I said that's really bad, ain't it? Like, I was talking about to give y'all that. Look, I
Hey,
can't even see it with
The
glasses.
numbers don't look as bad on this one, Crystal. You can't see them.
I should have just stuck with that one.
See how fast you're-
Now that number's still negative, so I guess.
It's still the same, isn't it?
I'm just using a 10-year number.
This doesn't look like as much of a problem as small. It's
3265. That's based on 10 months, so 265 divided by 10.
So you said anything in the 200 was benefits?
Yes,
63.
all of your benefits, fall like 201 is social security, 204 is retirement, 212 is Medicare, so that's gonna be always your benefit codes
Right.
that go along with that 100 object of the salary,
Salary, and 200 are benefits.
in each category.
How much increase did
So the payment to retirees, that's for their insurance.
miscellaneous stuff? You know what I'm saying? Like
Well,
Payment to retirees,
We could do
is that
that.
for insurance?
Where we pay part of their insurance until they
This
reach
is payment for retirement.
65.
That has to be payments for retirees. We have to have money budgeted every year for those that may retire because it's what they call OPEB benefits. So we have to have money aside for those that may retire because they if they've worked here for 15 years, I think they get like $20 a day that we have to pay out. So we have to have that money set aside and for like sick days, people that have sick days to pay their sick days and stuff out.
That's hard.
So let me ask you something, Crystal, when me and James was at the county give the school the growth on the tax penny. So has the county still been doing that, or do they cut the penny and give the school the same amount of money? See, we give the growth on it, cause we, that helped the school, and that would be, cause the penny usually every year grows a little more, and we would give the school the same number of pennies, but you get more money because the penny was worth more. Has they still been doing that, or?
To my knowledge, I think so. We could talk more, and we are, we are getting a little more, of course, we don't ever raise, I told Donnie and William, and of course Mike knows this, but like the budgeted revenue, let me see. If you look at the bigger print,
Yeah.
the front page is kind of like a summary, and that is your revenues and your expenditures, just a summarized version of it. So all of the ones down to the 4,400 or 44,000 category right there account is, we don't ever change those much, because if we change those, it creates maintenance of effort issues for the county. So we budget those the same, so we probably will take in more local option sales tax than we have budgeted, but we never change that because of budgeting purposes, and we don't ever want to raise the maintenance of effort for the county.
So they're talking about putting that on the ballot again, the local option sales tax, but we done that one time and it failed miserably. I mean, nobody's gonna vote
I
to
would
raise
assume that would
taxes.
happen again.
If it was, presented that it would help not raise property taxes, maybe it would pass, but, or maybe if it's just earmarked for the school, cause we brought it up, I think 2015, and it's 8% for, 92% against. But last year when
That's
they raised
one
the
of
property tax, they lowered the pennies to give the schools, so I don't know if we actually got the growth or not, because, you know, they cut the number of, but they give the same amount of money.
Yes.
So I don't think they're, you know, cause usually it was 30 or 40,000 a year or more that we give the school of the growth of the penny. So maybe that's something we need to talk to the county about, if they're not doing that still, to see.
That is, but keep in mind also that they're going through the exact same thing we are, because they no longer have that COVID money on all the projects that they were going through, so they're doing exactly what we're doing here.
So do you know what the excess revenue was this year versus what was budgeted?
This current year, I think it's gonna be around 800,000 in the local
Well,
option
that's the
tax.
same thing,
But-
we're close.
But, of course, you can't budget that,
Right.
obviously, because who knows what will happen with the taxes. I mean, could have been a good year in the past, it has been up and then went down 4 years in a row, you know, it's just, it fluctuates. Hopefully it stays up. I hope our county, it seems to be doing rather well, you know, we've got a lot more stores on the square
I
and,
know it's hypothetical,
very helpful.
but if it stays like it did this past year, then we're
Yes.
200,000 off.
200,000, that's
Yeah.
correct, that's what I said a while ago.
And the thing is that we could get more students, with more people moving in, we could have more students into the school also.
So-
When will we know with our virtual?
yeah, and
school?
none of that is accounted for, so hopefully we would get some additional revenue from that. Because each child that we, got enrolled in that program was at approximately $3,000 or $4,000 that they should generate
For-
revenue for us.
So the old BEP, we didn't actually get that money till the following year, right?
You're
Correct.
So with TISA, do we get it now?
I think it's every quarter they
Okay.
reevaluate,
Yeah,
readjust.
all year long there.
So the more virtual, the more, yeah, okay.
I'm in hopes that'll turn out to be a positive for us.
Hey, Crystal, can you look at, on page number 13,
Uh-huh.
item 331, legal services? What, it says 30,000, what did we have budgeted this year, and where are we year to date on that budget?
Give me 1 second.
What you looking at, Mitch? I couldn't hear you.
Legal services on page 13, item 331.
72, 310, 331,
Yeah.
legal services, Ricky.
This budget called for 30,000, I just wonder what our budget was last year, and then where we are year to date on, in that budget cycle.
One thing to keep in mind about that we did have, several other legal things that we haven't had in the past years. That, we had, Jenny Miller, thing that we had to go through, and then, several of our lawsuits have wrapped up this year also.
I'll look at that number. So last year we budgeted 30,000 as well
Okay.
in there. And I think we have, just because I know I'm gonna have to pull a new PO for that, which means that we've exceeded the 30,000 that we had budgeted. So I know it's over slightly right now, for sure. But I can tell you the exact amount.
So
My
we've done
computer
that
won't let me
budget
connect to
amendment?
the finance software.
Sorry.
So you're gonna have to do a budget amendment, I guess, for that, or?
Yes, it'll be in on the final one, yeah.
And could we save money by bringing legal services within the county as opposed to, someone from Nashville?
I think so. I think you would.
Well, I know with the last issue, there was a lot of travel associated with those that ran a lot of the legal services up. And so I just think that's something that at least ought to be reviewed and considered. I mean, we're looking for every possible savings, and two effects from that. One, if you can reduce what you're paying, plus the monies you're paying goes right back into the same county, that funds back into your school system, as opposed to going to Nashville and going to their school system.
And, just one thing that we have to keep in mind with that, and we ran into this right here in the past, you do have to make sure that you have somebody who does have school system experience, because we ran into the past when we had an issue with an employee, an attorney told us, well, just go ahead and fire them.
and they were a tenured teacher. And if you fire a tenured teacher, it's a whole big mess.
There's some attorneys in Overton County that are other counties' attorneys, other school systems, so we've got some people here that's got experience.
How was our kindergarten registration numbers compared to last year, countywide,
They were pretty good.
up or down,
I know one school was down.
whole county?
I couldn't quote that to you right now, but I sent some I believe I sent some numbers up to you with that, didn't I?
Yes.
I didn't know how it compared to last year.
I know some of the schools were down, but as a district, I don't know.
I just think that's where a lot of your growth comes from, is kindergarten, you know? Can you send it out tomorrow, Chris, along with, tell us how many we got from, or whoever's over, I guess Christie Miller, compared to last year?
Enrollment
Yeah,
for kindergarten.
kindergarten, compared to last year.
Is there anything in the budget, like textbooks and stuff, that we wouldn't have to buy this year, that maybe, I mean, I know.
Was hopeful. We did have to do, is it science this year, I
Science.
believe? So it is a textbook adoption year, so that is a pretty big hefty chunk, but they have looked and cut back. I know the girls have worked really hard to cut back, not,
One section.
they're getting everything they need, just not any of the supplementing materials. A lot of the ones that they thought they could do without.
What might be known?
What percent of this budget is salary? I mean, a whole lot of it's.
It's
A
more than
general
50%.
rule of thumb is usually 85% is salary
That's
and
what
benefits.
the county budget's the
15.
same way, it's hard to
Right.
cut, I mean, there's very few places you can
Right.
cut because.
They used to pay on 35%.
That's what I'm saying, maybe we need to talk to the county about helping, because they raised taxes last year, they got a whole lot more revenue, but they didn't give the school more revenue than we got the year before.
But if I'm not mistaken, they're having a time trying to balance their budget also.
Hmm.
Now, the COVID money when I was there was already, we put it in the fund balance, you didn't have to use it, you could use it for whatever. So 2 years ago, that was an extra influx of money that they had. Because the federal government, when the county and the school got it, they said we could use it for whatever, so we put it in the fund balance, so that was 2 years ago, so that ain't.
Of course, we'll do this, substitute teachers, both certified and non-certified, run about the same each year. That's $260,000. Is that always about
Unfortunately,
that
are
for
over that
subs?
budget this year. That's how much we have budgeted, but we are over that this year.
Over it?
We're already over budget in that, yeah.
Does the state say we have to buy certain textbooks? Does the state make us buy certain textbooks?
They have certain ones that are on the list that we can select from.
But do we have to buy it?
We have to adopt the, we have to adopt it,
You
we
don't have to buy them,
buy
you
it.
can adopt them.
Adopt it, but you don't have to buy it.
I know when I was teaching, there was lots of textbooks I didn't use. I never used a Tennessee history textbook. I used to use it. It was very easy to get out of it. That's my kind of thing, textbooks with like
It's a lot of money, Alex, $400,000.
Well, you got the software that's more than
It is, but I think what the issue with the textbooks is that, the standards have changed, the curriculum standards, and they've built the textbooks to align with the new standards and,
And some textbooks are necessary, that's
Oh.
especially with so much, with software comes more important than the textbooks. So do so much on the computers
Right.
anymore.
So what we budgeted for fuel for the bus this year too.
I think it was a 12-year deal when we did it.
All right, so
Think about what year we did.
the main thing that we wanted to do was get this information out there to everybody tonight so that they can see it and start reviewing it, and then we can start having more discussions on it and everything. So we will take let you all take this information. If you have any questions, reach out to Dr. Holman and ask him any of the questions. He'll be able to get answers for you on that. So what we'll go ahead and do is we'll go ahead and bring this work session to an end, and that way everybody can have time to review everything, and then we will, hopefully continue to have cuts on the budget that we can find and narrow this margin on it.
What do we budget for fuel, Crystal, for the buses?
I think 125.
125.
And of course, we have, the schools pay some of theirs, so that offsets some of our fuel costs, for trips and stuff like that.
Was that
They do.
down from last year?
I think we budgeted the same right now as last year, yeah. And of course, the schools are paying the higher amount. We raised it from 50 cents a couple of years ago to $1 when fuel went up, so they're still paying $1 per mile.
All right, this work session is adjourned.